So basically what we do in here is we just look at Alan's Coptic book, and we just look at the exercises and talk about what they mean, talk about etymology, so like the sources of these words in older stages of Egyptian, and what they would have sounded like exactly, and all that kind of stuff. Last week we did exactly 4 questions because we talked about them so much. And maybe this week we'll do more than 4 questions. I don't know. But we have 3 people here. Let's see, Aurelio, Paul, Ethan, and we'll just take turns going over questions. Paul, do you feel comfortable translating these sentences if I ask you to?
Not translating. I mean, my vocab's like very scarce. I recognize like Ibshiri means father, for example, just like common church words. I can pretty much read and kind of write, but my vocab is very, very weak. And I actually wanted to ask really quickly if you recommend a way to best use the Ankis, because I see they're split by lesson, and I'm guessing these exercises match up to the lessons.
I think so. The Ankis for this course are all directed towards Lambden's textbook.
Okay, but we're using Allen's.
Right. So the Ankis are not geared towards Alan's book at all. I don't think there is one out there. This book just, excuse me, this book just came out. I don't think anyone has made an Anki for it. I suppose I could make one eventually, but I wouldn't expect that to happen anytime soon because it actually is. It's quite a lot of time investment. It's not a lot of work per se, but it takes a long time to make all those cards. So that doesn't exist. But fortunately, there are so many sources of Coptic flashcards out there that you don't have to specifically use an Anki for a single book. You could just do the Anki for Lambden, or there are various ones that come from different dictionaries. Because vocab is shared by all of these books, more or less. Like you can target it, you can learn the words that are specifically used in the lesson of that book, and that's the most effective way to learn vocab while using the book at the same time. But you don't have to. You can also just learn Coptic vocabulary generally. The natural sorting that happens with vocab is frequency of use, right? You want to learn the words that are used most often first. And kind of a general tendency of language is that if you learn the words that are used most often, you'll also in the process become familiar with the most common grammatical constructions, because a lot of those words will be function words that occur in grammatical constructions. And you'll also be able to read, you're getting the most bang for your buck. So if you were to learn the 1,000 most common words of Coptic, because there's this Zipfian distribution of word frequency, you'll probably cover like 90% of any text you're going to read. So that's my advice there, is to I would choose something like Lambden, where it's designed for new learners. So the words that are given are already kind of sorted by frequency by default, right? Lambden's naturally going to give you the most common words in the language. And he's going to use the most common words in the language in constructing the exercises and all those kind of things. I would also say that if you still feel like you have a lot of vocabulary to learn, it really wouldn't hurt to participate in the other course as well, where perhaps the grammar is too far below your level of experience, but it doesn't hurt anything. One of the reasons that I love teaching the classes like that is because you can never be too good at reading Coptic. Like I love reading Coptic, and I want to be really good at it, and I want to practice it all the time. And it really doesn't hurt anything to just get more input, right? So when we do the lessons together, even though I know what all of them say already, it still doesn't hurt me to be there as the teacher doing those lessons. So I would definitely suggest participating in that class if you're able. Those classes are both before and after this one. So either at 10 a.m. Eastern time or at 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, so those two go by the Lambden textbook, and this one is kind of like the more advanced one where you guys just practice like translation, things like that.
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
But I strongly encourage you to stay here as well, because I don't have to call on you to translate, and I won't today. I'd rather that you just kind of sit and enjoy the things we talk about and see how you feel about it. It definitely won't hurt anything. So what we're looking at in this class are different dialects. So Alan has created this book. It's kind of like a Coptic textbook for new students, but I wouldn't necessarily expect any new students to pick this book up first. It's really about showing the different dialectal ways of saying things. So it's probably geared towards more advanced learners where you know enough Coptic that you'd really like to see how different dialects do things differently.
That's definitely something that would come up in my Coptic lessons growing up, but like I've definitely like been kind of far moved from like my Coptic community ever since like moving for school and all that. So I'm definitely like I have a lot to learn in both classes. Even my grammar isn't strong, I wouldn't say.
Cool. Yeah. Well, then by all means, come join us before or after this class, whatever works for you. Or as always, the videos will be online. So I have two playlists that are this class and the beginners Coptic class. All those go up online. You get to hear me rambling about random things, and you get to learn some Coptic. So it's, it's just win-win. Okay, so thanks for being here, Paul. I think I'm going to pass the questions first to Aurelio. What do you think, Aurelio?
Sounds good. Do we start at number 5?
Yeah, sorry,
okay.
Number 5.
100F mode. So some dead people. Sounds like the Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
What can you break it apart?
Sure. So Han, indefinite plural article would be hun in Saitic.
Good. Yeah.
Ref is a nominalizer. I think it comes from Rome. So a person. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it.
Or is it from Iri? From like. But basically, it's somebody who is or does something, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So the formal term for this is it's a nomen agentis, meaning the noun of agent, noun of the agent, or the noun of the doer, of course, if we really go, with the Latin phrase. And I believe it comes from iref.
Makes more sense, but because there's an F in there. Rome wouldn't fit.
Yeah. Although in other cases, iref is off. So it perhaps comes from like, I really don't know. I'd have to look it up. I once knew and I seem to have forgotten. But it is either from like Rome off, like the man he did or he does or something, or it's like the present Sechemef that's been fossilized like that, which doesn't really exist by the time of late Egyptian. Gosh, I don't know. I'd have to think about it for a little bit. But that in the case of Coptic, if we kind of take Coptic on its own terms and ignore the fact that I've forgotten the etymology of this prefix, it is just, like you said, a nominalizer. It creates the nomen agentis from a verb. Just like in English, we would say do and then doer. It's essentially the ER ending.
Right. And then mode, basically the verb being just, be dead or dead.
Yeah, and I think this is the qualitative of the verb because the verb itself is mu. Most of the
no
time.
T, true.
So yeah, I think this is probably the qualitative from the T ending third person feminine singular, that T ending of the qualitative, for some reason that shows up a lot. I'm sorry, of the stative in earlier Egyptian, that shows up a lot in Bohairic, that T ending in the qualitative doesn't show up that often in Saitic. So it's kind of a weird thing where the two dialects seem to have selected, when they kind of discarded the whole paradigm of the stative and just kept one form to use as the qualitative, Bohairic seems to have most often kept the third person feminine singular, while Saitic seems to have most often kept the masculine singular for whatever reason. So you see those T's on qualitatives a lot more often in Bohairic than you do in Saitic.
So how would we say this in Sahidic?
I think it's the same, actually. I think in this case it's the same. I think it would be ref mawet with omicron instead of omega. And actually, that's something we can check real quick by doing this. I'll just find a case of the Bohairic, and the Saitic will probably be right next to it. Let's see. Then, so we have net moet, so those who are dead, rather those who do being dead, but essentially the same thing.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. Great job, Aurelio. Ethan, you want to get after this one?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it. Umanimton, a place of rest.
Yeah. How do you break it up?
Simply the indefinite article. Man is a construction indicating a place of the following piece of data. Following string. The word is escaping me this early morning.
The following lexeme.
Okay. Ooh, I like that. Lexeme. The lexeme, which is following in this case, is imton, provided in the vocabulary list, meaning to rest.
Yeah.
I don't know any Egyptian etymologies. This class was my introduction to Egyptian language. But those constructions are ones provided in the chapter. Yeah.
And you've got it exactly right. I would actually even break this down further. Ma or mai actually means place. It's its own lexeme.
Okay.
That means place. Maybe from, if anybody does know earlier stages of Egyptian, probably from the word bu that you get in gardener so often to mean place. It's probably from that Middle Egyptian word bu, and it becomes something like mai or maul, and then ma in Coptic. And then this is the genitive. So it is literally one place of resting. And that's it.
How should one pronounce, I just took a crack at it, but how does one pronounce the man with the diacritic, which I would normally think indicates like an epsilon sound before the N? Should actually be umanimton?
I would say umanimton. So there are two options. Anyone who was in the previous class just an hour or so ago will recall my long jeremiad on the superlinear stroke and the Jenkim and Orell's Coptic sounds and all of these things. Basically, there are two very obvious possibilities. One is that it represents an unwritten epsilon going with that consonant, and the other is that it represents a syllabic consonant. So like the N in the English word button, where it's actually just I'm just pronouncing it sound all by itself. Both of those are possible. I think it largely depends on the immediate phonetic context, whether you actually need an epenthetic vowel to go in there, or whether you can just use a syllabic consonant. Probably also depends on how quickly the speaker is speaking. So in very casual, very rapid speech, these probably would have been syllabic consonants. In a sort of a scenario where you would expect hypercorrection and like a higher register sort of speech, these might have been vocalized with an epsilon in front of them. So uma and emton. versus umanimton. But really, there's no certain right or wrong answer there. It's probably a case of saving paper, most likely. I think the
Okay.
superlinear stroke and the genkim, most likely just a case of not wasting papyrus.
I see. Cool, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will continue to come up because it's been debated for years and years, and everyone thought that Worrell had kind of closed the door on that debate. But in his book, he argues that he deals with the fact that Bohairic especially uses genkim sometimes and uses epsilon sometimes. So they're just kind of, they seem to be in free variation in written text. So then the question is, why do they have both? Why does Bohairic like to use epsilon where Saitic likes the superlinear stroke? The argument that Worrell gives is that Bohairic is just spoken more slowly. The implication seems to be that it's like more of a bumpkins dialect, so it's not spoken as quickly or something. And that doesn't hold water anymore based on what we know about languages. It worked in the 1920s and it just wouldn't work now. We know that that's not really how the pronunciation of languages works. Different dialects don't really produce information at a slower or faster rate on average. So that just really can't be right. So we have to revisit it and figure out exactly what it is. It's probably just a case where, it's people do it different ways at different times for different reasons and all that. But anyway, okay. Christian, do you want to read this one?
Hey, sure. And Shere and Abraham, so the children of Abraham.
Yeah.
The first being the oh man, I'm forgetting my grammatical terms, but the article that, what are the two different types of articles again? What are they called?
Definite and indefinite.
Yeah, exactly. The definite plural article.
Yeah,
and then the second is the genitival prefix or whatever, genitival marker.
Yep.
Yeah, which is funny. What was the L dialect again? It's
Lycopolitan.
Lycopolitan. I mean, that's like this looks the same as Saitic. So
yeah, I was gonna ask what's weird about it, and the answer is nothing. Nothing's weird about it at all.
I was going to ask because I feel like I have seen entries in dictionaries where they show a plural form of shere, which is a little different, like neshreu or something like that.
Yeah, shreu is possible.
But and I'm also got my little book here that has a whole list of them. I'm trying to find it. But so that kind of just falls out of favor pretty quickly, or just.
I mean, it would be the equivalent of the English word children. And so this would be the equivalent of saying childs, the childs of Abraham, which is not wrong per se. You can easily imagine like a non-native English speaker using that and, no one having any trouble with it at all. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I found it. It is in this book. It shows the plural of shere as shreu, which it's always kind of fun if you know the form to use it. But it looks like now the example sentences we've had in the other classes, they don't seem to use it. So
yeah, maybe it's kind of like I think a better example would be brethren.
Oh yeah, that makes more sense because child's nobody says, but brethren is completely fine English, really, but archaic.
You say brothers, yeah. Okay, so there's actually something interesting to say about that. Okay, surprisingly, when what looked like a very straightforward sentence, there's always more to be said.
For me, I can always derail everything, so.
Oh man, yeah. They shouldn't let the two of us be together in a class. But people keep showing up, so whatever.
It's not enough. We're two Christians.
Mustafa, do you want to talk about number 8? Where you went?
Yeah.
There he is.
Oref Oref, Oref Ernabi. Actually, I don't know which accent it is. It's maybe Fayumik.
That's right.
I don't know. I couldn't get it. You know,
Do you want to skip,
Nabi
Mustafa?
maybe.
Do you want to skip or do you
Yeah.
want to work on it?
Actually, ref something like iref from late Egyptian.
It's the prefix of the nomen agentis. So
Yeah.
the doer, the one who does something. And what is Ernavi?
Ernavi, Navi something like actually in Sahidic Nobe for the sin.
Yep. That's right.
Maybe similar. It's same thing from Sahidic.
Yep. It's the same word. This is the Fayumic version of that word, nobe, sen.
Doer of the sin.
Yeah, a sinner. We would say a sinner. Where's my little text thing? Text thing. Like this. I should probably be doing this for all of them. A sinner. Okay, thank you, Mustafa. And Aurelio.
Okay. Before I go to the Chin Seji, what's the extra R doing in the one above? I mean, if ref is already the and novi is sin, how come it's not just uref novi or navi in this case?
Good question. So Navi, does anyone want to try to answer that before I try to answer it? Anyone else have a guess? Why do you have to say ref nove instead of just ref nove?
Oh, it has to be a verb. It has to be a verb. That's it.
It has to be a verb.
It's the sinner. So I needed to sin, and novi is to commit a sin. Now it makes sense.
Yeah.
I got it.
Ernovi is to, like you said, to commit a sin or to sin as a verb, whereas nove is sin as a noun.
Makes
so
sense.
then,
Got it.
so yeah, you have to have the add in there. But that's a good question because it brings up this really frequently used way of converting nouns into verbs, which is just to stick er on the front. That's basically how Egyptian does it. Whereas English, we kind of just, we just verb the noun straight away. We say we're going to Google something or whatever. Egyptian puts this at the beginning really consistently to turn a noun into a verb.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. On to number 9. So Xin Seji, and that's mesochemic, I guess, in the M. So Xin is, I think, a manner, and Seji, I'm guessing that's just a variant of Shaje. So a manner of speaking, maybe.
Yeah, a manner of speaking is good. Chin, I never really know. It's a nominalizer for verbs. So it's like, but we already have the infinitive in Coptic and we can use the infinitive as a noun at will. So we could just say like piseje, for example, in this dialect, to mean like the speech. But Chin or Jean, when you have that at the beginning, it creates a noun from a verb, and it's like it has more of a continuous verbal quality to it. So it's the difference between speech and speaking. So chin seje is like speaking is, public speaking is difficult, for example. We have an idea of like, that has a different sort of activeness to it from giving a speech in public is difficult, right? One has kind of this sense of like the action being ongoing, but it's more of a kind of a verbal active nuance to it, but it is still a noun, technically. Same thing with chin. It's like a way of talking about the concept of the verb that retains the sense of like actively doing something, if that makes sense. So this is chin in most dialects, I think, in Saitic. Also Jin in Bohairic, and it's actually where this thing gets its name, Jinkim, from. So Jinkim, Kim means to move. So Jinkim is like movement, moving. So this thing is actually called a movement. Probably derived from the Arabic grammatical term for inflections, those things. Tashkil, I guess, is the word I know for those. I don't think that means movement though. But anyway, so it's called a movement, probably just as a calque, but I do kind of wonder whether it's it has something to do with the variable quality of the short vowel that goes into it. Like the position of the epenthetic vowel depends on whether what comes before is a consonant or a vowel, and issues like that. I don't know. But to wrap that up, chin seje, speaking as a concept. That's it. And good call on the, so this is the word shaje in Saitic. It's the word saji in Bohairic. And you can see we have kind of an intermediate form, appropriately intermediate between Saitic and Bohairic, of seje or saja, something like that. Okay. Who is next? Ethan.
Hello. All right. Hob nim emea. I think it would mean every work of truth.
Yeah. Even I would even say like every true thing.
Oh,
even
okay.
more kind of basically.
Gotcha.
Less. I think you could be even less precise. Hob nim emea could be, yeah, every true thing. So that emea
Yeah.
is the acmemic form of the word meh in Saitic or mei in Bohairic. That's from, can you tell me what older Egyptian word that comes from?
Ma'at.
Yeah, there it is.
That's maybe the one thing I know, thanks to Bob Breyer's great courses.
Oh, wow. Does he talk about this Coptic word in there?
No, he talks about the Egyptian concept of Ma'at as like a cosmic order.
Ah, right. Okay, good. Yeah, good call. I actually, asking you that, I forgot that you literally just said that you haven't studied older stages of Egyptian, and I just
Yeah.
like sprung a etymology question on you again.
No, it's okay. You asked the one
foolishly.
thing I could answer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So shout out to Bob, I guess.
Oh man, Bob Breyer's a super nice guy. So the first time I met him, I was going to this estate sale in Connecticut. It was the estate of Lanny Bell, who is an Egyptologist, also just a super nice guy. He used to come to things at Brown all the time, and he passed away a few years ago, and then one of his relatives sold his library in an estate sale, and I drove up, and Bob Breyer was there, and we were both waiting in line to get in next to each other, and I introduced myself. And he said, "Oh, I'm Bob Breyer. I do these things." And I was like, I know who you are, actually. I feel like I already know you quite well because I've listened to about 80 hours of your voice thus far. And then when we went through the estate sale, I told him that I was a specialist in language, and he set aside all the language books he found for me to come get and
Oh,
take
how
home.
nice.
So yeah, he's a super nice guy, and I love the work he does to make ancient Egypt accessible, and also the cool stuff with mummies. It's all really great. So yeah, nothing but good things to say about Bob Breyer and the work he does. He's a really super guy. And he taught you the meaning of the word ma'at, which has just come in handy.
He did.
That's so cool to know that he's actually, like, you've met him, because I've seen the Great Courses course, the video course set that he did, and I thought it was really cool. But it's good to know that he actually knows his stuff too. And
yeah,
small circle.
Yeah, it's just kind of like Egyptology is actually a pretty small world. That's why you probably shouldn't do things like make an Instagram of yourself wearing pith helmets in Egypt, because everyone already knows who you are.
Is this a reference to something that somebody did?
I was about to ask.
It's a reference to Colleen Darnell's Instagram, the vintage Egyptologist, where she literally like walks around Egypt in colonial garb and like shouts random commands at Egyptian people, and everyone knows her. Like, I've met her in person, and we're just like, what the fuck are you doing, you lunatic? Like, that's just so hateful. Why are you doing this?
I didn't know she did that. I saw some videos of hers, but I was like, okay, she's quirky or whatever. But my goodness, like, you don't have to really try and go back.
Yeah, she just decided to lean super hard into the nostalgia for British colonialism, and just about everyone else in the field is just scratching their head like, what in the world is the matter with you?
Imperial chic.
Yeah, right.
I found her Instagram.
Egyptology.
What'd you say?
This is a shocking thing.
It is. It's pretty horrifying. And then somebody wrote a blog post. Actually, a few Egyptologists. I don't actually remember all the authors who are involved in it, but they wrote a blog post basically saying like, this is super hateful and super inappropriate. And then if you read the comments on that, it's all people saying like, I don't get why this isn't okay. It's just about fashion. It's like, well, because there's like this history of like horrible violence and oppression that really, as an Egyptologist, you should be quite familiar with, and as a decent person, trying to address and not perpetuate. But yeah, so that's fun.
Wow,
definitely always want to call that out anytime I can. And you'll hear other Egyptologists do it as well. People call that out pretty often because it's just so inappropriate and so hateful and so unnecessary. But yeah, where did I get on that? Oh yeah, small world. So yeah, if you're a jerk in Egyptology, everyone knows you. So yeah. Anyway, okay. I just asked you to answer. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
Which
so I
is
think
good
it's
because I don't know the next one.
Oh, good. Yeah, that works out well. You actually didn't have to say that part. Could have just kept it a secret, but oh well. Christian, do you want to answer this one?
I can try. Yeah. All right. So the superlinear over the P and the T make me think that says napnuti.
Mm-hmm.
So is it my God? No.
This is tricky, right? So it looks like my gods, except if you were to expand this out, this would actually be Pnuti, like the god, the name of
Oh, that's
God.
right. Yeah, so that does make sense. Oh, those of the god.
Yeah, there we go. So that's what happens to me with these forever. It's like my men's. Oh no, and you have to back out and start over because it's just a completely different word. So those of God and
those of man.
Yeah. So it's like the things which belong to God and the things which belong to mankind.
Oh, those of the men, right? That and in the middle, that non-Rome is not the genitive, it's the plural definite article.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Those of the men. Okay, and Mustafa, what do you think? Intak Hok, what do you think? Where he went? Did he leave? Okay.
He's here.
Oh no, there he is.
Actually, it is something similar. Independent pronoun is second independent pronoun you. Intak.
Yep, that's it.
Hawk. Maybe hawk means something like ruler. I don't know.
So you're thinking from Heka?
Yeah.
Etymologically from Heka? No, it actually comes etymologically from the word ha, meaning like limb or body part.
Okay.
What was I going to write here? I got up a text box and then I forgot why. Oh well. So the word ha or hau, that means respectively limb or body. Hau is like limbs, literally limbs in the plural, but it's also used as a word for body. And we do a similar thing in English when we say words like somebody. We're not really talking about a body, it's just a way of saying someone. This is a way of saying like you yourself. So intak hok, hok just emphasizes you again. It's like you yourself. And it's also the way that Coptic often says also. So if you wanted to say, I did this and you also did this, you could say intak hok tafa'af or whatever. So you can
Is there
use
any
that.
form of Sahidic?
Yeah, it would be ho'ok with 2 omegas. Let's find some examples in context.
Okay.
I feel like this is really tough to explain with no context. So, art thou also out of Galilee? Me intak uevol ho'ok on int Galilea. So, are you not one out of you yourself also the Galilee? So you'll see this word a lot where there's like an also in the translation because it's a way of putting focus on the pronoun. And you will see some for sure that don't actually have the word also in them specifically laid out. You'll see plenty that it's just this ho'o word by itself. Let me try to broaden it a little bit, see if I find other persons. No, all of them are having on. The ho'onan he gave to us also. So yeah, I don't actually see this in the translation. I think maybe the alignment's a bit off in this section here. I did this myself in Excel, so sometimes the translations don't always line up perfectly because I made a mistake in doing it. But it can also be the case that this translation comes from a different manuscript and so is possibly missing one little line that's here in the Saitic version. But this says, Afdi ho'on nan, he gave nan to us, and then ho'on is like ourselves. He gave to us ourselves. And then in context, that can mean he also gave to us, or it can mean he even gave some to us. Like he gave some to a bunch of people who were really important, and he even gave some to us lowly sinners or whatever, depending on the context. But it's just a way of emphasizing in this case, the first person singular, plural pronoun, us, or in other cases like this one, it's emphasizing the second person masculine singular pronoun. Yeah. It's a vocabulary word that you have to learn. And then the ability to translate it correctly in the context will come with reading practice. You'll get used to the Coptic way of saying it, and then it won't seem confusing anymore. Let's see. Okay, thank you, Mustafa. Stop me if there are any questions about that, but if not, we will go back to Aurelio to number 3.
I'm getting lucky here with the Saidic. So tefke psuke, psuke being soul, tef psuke would be his soul, and with the K in between, I would say his other soul.
Yeah, so that's weird, right? His other soul. How many is he supposed to have?
Depends on your belief system, but
True.
Christianity had
True.
one.
Generally, people believe that you have one, but there are other belief systems, and I don't mean to discount those, but it's very likely that this person, in this particular case, is understood as having only one soul, and the ke is actually doing something a little bit different from saying other.
Mhm.
It is probably saying also his soul. So another way, so Coptic doesn't really have the word also, which is such an important word in just about every language I've ever studied aside from Coptic. Yeah, I cannot think of a language that doesn't have a single word that means the equivalent of the English word also. German is kind of annoying and having a word also that means something completely different, which fucks with me every single time I see it. And probably will for the... What's that?
Which one are you talking about?
Also.
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 Oh, you mean it's a false friend? Yeah.
It's a false friend. It's a shitty friend, that word. It messes me up every single time I see it.
Also in German actually just means like so, like therefore, kind of, or something like that. The German
It's all being so, yeah.
yeah. So
it's like a whole relative sentence or something wrapped up in that.
yeah. Or like, well, that too. But yeah, you just have to say auch. Auch is also in English.
Which is good Middle English, right? Geek.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's auch.
Oh yeah, Eke. Like the as in like a nickname.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know that one. I
didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's a case of rebracketing, which I have to thank whoever in Discord pointed out to me that was the linguistic term I was looking for, where you take like the N from the article and put it onto the noun. Yeah, the orange, like the orange case, an orange for an orange or whatever. A nickname for an ek name, and also name.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
I think more when I've been watching Jackson Crawford's videos on Old Norse, and also when I see other Scandinavian languages and their word for and is like ok, and I always wonder if those are cognates, but
I bet they are. I bet they are. I don't know for sure, so I don't want to say definitely, but I would be surprised to learn that they're not. Although saying that, I had assumed forever that the word acorn means like oak kern, right? You would think, because it's the kern from the oak. Like, it just seems obvious to me that that's what it means, and I don't think that's correct. I looked it up once because I was saying that, and I was like, well, obviously it's this, and it was like, no, everyone thinks this, but it's not true. It's actually from this other phrase, and it's like, oh, damn, why would they make it like that? From Gothic, akron, fruit, from, or related to like agriculture. Acker, that root.
Crazy.
By folk etymology, association with oak, Old English ak, and corn, which has neither of which has anything to do with it. It's like, ah, so unfortunate. Anyway, okay, so but that example of like auch and ek or ek and things meaning also or other or alternative. Here we have a parallel case in Coptic where you say his other soul, but you really mean also his soul.
Got it.
And that is, if you're just reading raw Coptic texts, that's going to mess with you for a while for sure, because it's just not obvious. But that's the way it is. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. I think I'm probably going to stop us here, actually, just so I have a minute to, like, you know, get ready for the next Coptic class. Anyone who wasn't here in the first Coptic class, which is everyone except Aurelio, I hope to see you in like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
In Coptic, Lambden's Coptic. And I'm just going to put a point here to start next time, which is February 20th. Yeah. Okay, so next time we'll start with number 4 and exercise 3 and just dig into the Coptic and the etymology a bit more. I hope everyone's having fun. Move this. Go ahead and stop sharing and bid you all a good weekend. And except for you, Aurelio, you're off the hook. All the rest of you cats, I better see y'all in about 10 minutes in Lambda's Coptic.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
See you next lesson.